Clark. We stand together and accept that we now live in a world transformed by Fukushima. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here on UCY.TV radio. We relentlessly engage every ear that listens. We expose and confront the complete lack of accountability for the nuclear industry. Consider social engineering programs who view our bodies, minds, and souls as assets on a balance sheet. We discuss vital current issues, interview activists, and engage our audience in an effort to allow all voices to be heard. The Age of Fission radio show creates a venue that all will choose. We encourage our listeners to reclaim their power and their courage to take action and save our planet from the ravages of greed and indifference. Our actions matter. Every voice matters. We remind our listeners that happiness is resistance. Love is greater than fear.
Good morning, UCY.TV radio listeners. This is Lonnie Clark with the Age of Fission radio show. Today is December 12th, 2016. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. Thank you for joining us today. And today we have on with us Chuck Hindman again from Mid-America Land Restoration. Thanks, Chuck, for joining us. Chuck wanted to come back relatively quickly since the Fukushima accident, the last earthquake and subsequent accidents. So thanks, Chuck. Thanks for joining us. Hello? Oh, man. So this is 5 days in a row that this is happening. Chuck? Well, man, we must be batting 1,000. Hello? So I'm going to call Chuck back. Goodness gracious. The old NSA, at least they're consistent, eh, guys? Every single day they've cut off our phone lines every time. So good thing I come prepared because I had his phone number right here just in case this happened again. So let us be persistent. I guess this is the not good news show. So that's what I've decided. Let me see if he can join us again. See what happens here. So hopefully we'll be able to get him back on the line and he can join us. Maybe they... Hey, Chuck?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you for joining us. Oh my goodness gracious. As soon as we went on the air, we did not hear you. Did you hear us?
Yeah, I was listening to you over on the other one because you went dead on the...
Okay, so what happened was I just called you back because that's happened every single time I've called. So I wonder if it's, this is, I think, the fourth interview that I've done because I've been doing interviews almost daily now. Every single call has dropped as soon as we get on the air. So, maybe I'll have to start a new Skype number so the NSA will have to come find me again. But anyways, let's move on with the interview. Thanks for joining us, Chuck. We really appreciate it. It is December 12th, 2016. It's now 8:04. Hi, Chuck.
Good morning.
So, after all that, so what's the good news? Give us the happy news.
It's Monday.
Exactly. We can still breathe air. Yeah, we can still breathe air.
Breathe dirty air.
Yes, but we can still love each other. We can still love each other. That we can do. They can't take that away from us. We can still love ourselves. We can still enjoy life. Figure out a way to enjoy it. I mean, that's what I mean. Happiness is resistance. They can take everything away from us, but they can't take away our inner selves, our inner love. And they are attempting to take that away. I mean, that's fear-mongering. Everyone's like, like I have to get a grip on myself even, So what's going on with since the earthquake in Fukushima a couple weeks ago? We know they're now having to admit that there's radioactive contamination on the beaches and in the fish along the coast.
Correct. If anybody wanted to follow what I'm going to be talking about here, Mid-American Land Restoration on Facebook. These articles are back to back all the way through this page. The biggest thing is we've known it's been there, but it's coming out in the media a little bit by little bit. They're finding it in off the coast of Oregon, off the coast of British Columbia. Some reports up to Alaska. Then you'll find a cover-up admitted of radioactive fish off the west coast with disturbing fingerprint of Fukushima. That one came out on December 10th.
Wow.
December 11th of 2015. 2015, along with this one, I put up the Fukushima report, declassified worse than we were told. A lot of good reading in that one. Keep in mind that one's a year old. Then we can go on to the issues of Chernobyl. That's still an ongoing issue.
And it's not just Chernobyl. This is the thing people need to understand. It's all over Europe. Chernobyl means it's all over Europe. It's not just Chernobyl. Because the way the wind, it goes up to Norway. Norway got very badly hit.
Everybody needs to understand each one of these nuclear plants, even though it's in Chernobyl, it's going to affect us here. We have the same prevailing jet stream. It's going to be a whole northern hemisphere epidemic. So it's not just them, it's here. Just like Fukushima, Japan. It's not just Japan. It's all the way around the globe.
That's right.
It's
actually kind of a shock that our government officials, you and I were talking about that right before we got on the air, that there's a new report. Why don't you discuss that? I knew this because Shane Russell did a lot of the FOIA documentation. When I was first aware of it in 2012, a lot of the FOIA documentation was being talked about, and I actually saw the documents. Go ahead with this current official report says.
It's just a report that was released to us now, but it's a report from March 18th of 2011. It's a whole 86-page report. Everything that was released on March 18th about Fukushima, and it was buried and covered up and hidden from us for almost 6 years now.
Well, not only buried and covered up, but dismissed. It's been dismissed. They're like, oh, yeah, that's yesterday's news. They're like reading, it's almost like saying your child's arms just got cut off. And you're like, oh, really? Okay, let's put a Band-Aid on it and move on. Like, no.
And the other one that I found this morning, Discovery, this one is 12/10 of 16. So this one just 2 days old. This came out Saturday. Discovery in Japan could be linked to Fukushima accident. And what is it? Another blood type. Everybody, we've got the common blood types. Well, now they're discovering another blood type mutation in the blood in Japan, and they're just saying it's just another blood type.
Wow, that's big news.
Scientists have discovered 2 new blood types in Japan. Different than the 4 known blood types, scientists believe that the 2 new types might be related to the Fukushima nuclear disaster.
Wow.
So that's something indifferent.
Might be.
Yeah.
I mean,
might be.
I wonder how many other blood types that would mean. Like, if that mutates that way, what does that mean for the ability for it to mutate to other blood types?
Well, that would be 2 new types in almost 6 years.
Wow.
My question is, have they been watching for it?
What are you reading from? What's this from?
That came out of English, a news link out of England, I believe. Let me open it up and give it to you.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us what it is?
cctv.com in English. So it is world news.
TV.
I do not know where CTTV comes from.
In English. Well, it's easy enough. We can do some digging on that one. We'll have to look. It comes out of Beijing, based in Beijing.
So,
Chinese Central Television, that's what it means. China Central Television, based in Beijing. Maybe it's true. I mean, maybe they're telling the truth. Who knows?
There's also their,
I mean, that's
on their link with it from the news agency. So, it's just, we got to look outside of our realm because we're not going to get any news on it. We've got to look for it.
Yeah, well, not only that, are we not going to get any news on it, Chuck? We're going to get suppressed information.
So, everybody gets on my page and starts, well, this isn't American news. Well, no. Most of the contamination news dealing with the nuclear reactors are not going to be from America.
Well, this is the thing about, trusting our sources, right? It might be true, it might not be true, but what they can't deny is if it's true, we'll have more of it. It'll be overwhelming, in fact.
That's why generally I look for multiple articles on the same topic. But where I just found out...
Is that on your page? Is that on your page, the Mid-American Story? It is? Great. Okay.
And where I've found it with a credible source that I use, because there's a lot of Fukushima pages out there, and it's one of the ones that I usually follow a little bit. I got 5 or 6 of them I watch, and if they vent, and I usually take the article and find 4 or 5 more articles like it, then I'll run with it. But I found that one about 20 minutes before we went on air, so I just went ahead and put it on the page so I could talk about it.
Well, it's not a bad idea. I mean, I don't think that CCTV is any less credible than MSNBC. You know what I mean?
CNN or...
Yeah, or any of those. So, I mean, it's a government-run thing, yes, but, the thing is, the Chinese really do pride themselves in their scientific... I mean, the United States ranks very low scientifically, mathematically, reading. We've abominated our schools. We've basically... The No Child Left Behind didn't mean we're not educating them. It meant No Child Left Behind, us rich people. It really did our country no good to have that. It's really, they took civics out of high school, social science studies.
Well,
they don't teach them about the Constitution. Anyways, let's get off of that one. Let's get back to what we're talking about on this. The levels. What are the levels of air rads that you're finding out in the different areas of the country?
Well, the report that came out a week ago, we had 65 cities reporting on December 3rd above 1,000 counts per minute. And we start out there on the East Coast.
How could it be 1,000 counts when my Geiger counter, we must be taking different types of readings. Do you understand Geiger counters, Chuck? I don't. Because my Geiger counter, the highest rating it ever got was like 35, 45. Huh? Well, when we went up to even Hanford, it didn't go beyond 35 or 40.
So here we got Raleigh, North Carolina. This is with beta and gamma at 1,963 counts per minute.
Gosh. Where's that from? Who's taking the counts?
That's from Bob Nichols, Veterans Today.
Okay. I mean, they're pretty reliable, I think. They're not like off the charts. How are they taking their readings?
They're sourced. They're getting information from the EPA and everybody else, and getting the beta and the gamma put together and coming up with one number versus everybody else is just watching one, which is just watching the gamma, and they're using both the gamma and the beta.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It's really, this is the thing, we're seeing it happen though. We're seeing it with, and I think it actually is affecting people's emotions. I think it has a lot to do with a lot of things going on our planet right now. It's really
It
sad,
is.
but
You know, years ago I did a radio show. I may have to go back into my archives and repost it, but I talked about all the different symptoms and the issues we were having at that point in time.
like
I
what?
want
Why
to say
don't you tell us? Why don't you review what the symptoms are again, if you know them off the
plus
top?
now I'd have to go dig up the radio show I did and go back in time and try and get that same report pulled back up.
Uh-huh. Well, maybe you can find it and link it because that'd be interesting. I know a lot of people are interested in the I know the symptoms are, some of the basic symptoms are you just a general sense of fatigue and tiredness. That's one of the first things that happens. I mean, if it gets severe, your nose will bleed or you start vomiting or your eyes or your ears will bleed. That's severe though.
Maybe not as severe as what you think. Everybody's body reacts to it a little
True
lighter.
that.
I mean, you know, we're not the same. I mean, we are the same chemistry, but we're not the same chemistry. Some of them can absorb it a little bit better than others, and that's what everybody's got to understand. Everybody's got a.
You know
little
what I
bit
was thinking
in their
about
walk.
this? Maybe you might know this answer. You know how we say that microbes are going to help remediate the soil and they absorb the radioactive contamination and neutralize it. It remediates the soil. Is there, what if we take you can buy microbes to take internally. What if we up our dose of microbes inside of our bodies? Do you think that would work? Do you know if there's been any documentation that shows it works specifically to absorb bioaccumulated radioactive contamination in the human body using microbes? Have you heard of that?
I've got some stuff going on a different line. I might be able to give you a little bit more of a breakdown here in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Just a little heads up, I've found a group of doctors that are speaking out against the radiation.
Great. Which part of town? Is it like a little center in America, or is it a network of doctors across America?
A network of doctors across the country.
Nice. Thank goodness. They're probably seeing things off the charts that they've never seen before in a long time.
Well, one of the doctors, the doctor that I was visiting with, that called and talked to me Saturday morning. He knew right off the bat when Fukushima went up, just like I did when I threw my tizzy. He threw a tizzy, and he started doing this research and started watching things change. So he knew he was going to be affected just like I did. And by golly, he's following these numbers, and he's got some interesting information to come out with, and hopefully I can get him on the air, but it'll take a couple of weeks before I get enough on him to get him on the air with me. So
that's good. That's actually really good. I mean, is he a doctor that you know? How did you meet him? How did you come across him?
Somebody that's following what I'm doing on these reports and different things, and have heard some of the radio programs. And I don't only do this radio program, but I do 3 or 4 other different programs during the week.
What are some of those other ones where you're at, so people can follow you there?
I do a lot of stuff between you guys being out there on the West Coast, and then I skip to the East Coast. So I do some stuff with Keeper's Mind Pool, and I do some stuff with Patriot Radio with a few other gentlemen. So
called Patriot Radio, and what's the other one? Keeper's Mind Pool. MIND, Mind Pool, Keeper's Mind Pool, and Patriot Radio. And those are also like online radio stations like this one. Okay.
And then they've got a little bit more capability than what you do. They actually can take live call-ins. I communicate with all of the listeners this way. They get to call in and talk to me too.
Mm-hmm. Well, I ought to be able to do it. Jules and I have pretty much determined it's my Skype thing. I might have to get a whole brand new name because I'm the only Like just now, when we disconnected with you, we think there's some bug going on with my Skype name. So I might have to just get a whole new thing, reboot, restart a name, because I've had 5 days in a row now with the phone calls dropping as soon as I get on Skype, and I can't join phone calls in no matter what we've done. So we're pretty much determined it's probably my system, something going on with my bug. So hopefully we'll fix that, Chuck, and be able to take phone calls. So.
See, like right now, I'm over here on RadNet Air data from the EPA, and right now Spokane, Washington is bouncing around pretty good, just under 10,000 counts per minute just on gamma, the gross gamma. So we can drop down here to Salt Lake City, Utah, and see what we got down here. I'm moving faster than the computer can read. We've got some pretty erratic spiking going on there in Salt Lake City, so yeah, that's kind of different.
Well, I think with these, this is one of the things that Chuck Holstrunk talks about, is how to read those graphs. It's still off the charts so high. I mean, no matter how you read the graphs, even if you read them in a very, like, even with the way the NRC reads these graphs and the EPA, the way they choose to read them, the levels that our government says is even unacceptable. I mean, this is not acceptable levels. We should be having a national emergency to fix these things and figure out what we're going to do. I mean, think about it. If we could pour billions of dollars of microbes on every single bit of farmland in this country for the next 10 years or 15 years, you know, how we could actually maybe reverse a lot of the negative effects.
If we go 10 years of dumping microbes, guess what we're going to gain? We're going to regain the most natural balance we've had in years. We're going to be able to grow crops, and we won't need Monsanto anymore.
That's right. Exactly right.
Well, we've gotten rid of their chemical footprint. We would be growing our own food without all of the chemicals and the BS from Monsanto.
And we probably wouldn't have war because it's going to be so expensive. We wouldn't be able to do it. I mean, at what point is the planet, I mean, the leaders, the world leaders, just going to let us live in peace? Like, they just pick these fights and say, well, we need to go to war. And then they get people to send their children to war. That's ridiculous. I mean, we do not have the assets. We do not have the human assets to continue. I mean, it's just unconscionable what they're doing around the planet. With our tax dollars, Chuck, I don't know. I mean, I don't mind defending our country, but what we are supporting in many parts of this world is outrageous. You know,
ironically, everybody needs to understand, no matter what part of the country you're in, where we're at, and what we're dealing with, these RADs and this government that changed our radiation safety limits in our drinking water, because it was showing up too many major cities drinking water, and then changing that acceptable death rate back in 2014 or 2013.
That's a good statement, Chuck. Repeat that. Changing the acceptable death rate. That's exactly right.
No, they only changed it from 1 in 10,000 to an acceptable of 1 in 23.
Gee, that's not a big difference.
No, that's not drastic, is it?
From 1 in 10, they would warn us, they would put out a warning when one person in 10,000 got sick, to now they tell us when? 1 in 23. And they did it very quietly about 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, maybe it was. And when I told people at the time, people thought I was lying. They're like, no way, Obama would never do that to us. I'm like, really?
See, ironically, when that came out in full publication, I'd already had the files a year prior to that. You can go back through all of the photos on the Mid-America Land Restoration page, and you start opening up the photos clear back then, and you will find the PDF files that I had my hands on a year before they actually put that into play. I had all of that already.
Wow. You mean you knew about it already before it came out? How did you find out about it?
I got enough people that do a lot of digging just like I do, and and we get to go in places that we probably shouldn't get to go sometimes. But,
Wow.
you know, when you find PDF files and you start saving and bookmarking, and then you start digging, and then lo and behold, one file leads to another, and next thing you know, you've got some information that is being worked up as you're looking at it.
Hmm. How long have you been doing this, Chuck? Like this whole tracking all of this? Did it only happen since Fukushima? Is that what changed
The
your life?
radiation, yeah. When Mr. O went on nationalized news networks at that point in time of Fukushima, and when he reported that was Japan, that we will not see any of the effects here, I literally fell out of my chair. I said a few coarse words to the television, and I moved on about my merry old way, because I knew that what happens over there, we was going to see it within a few weeks, and I was absolutely correct.
Wow.
So,
I did not know. I had no idea. At the time, I thought, oh, thank God. I really believed everything. I really 100% believed everything.
Because I knew what goes up must come down. It's called gravity. And I knew we had the same prevailing jet streams. It all circulates this planet. You know, every 40 days, it's made a loop around the planet. So, and I knew all of that coming in. And it was, I knew we was going to have some issues. But as far as what I've been doing for rad numbers and stuff, I'm going to see if I can come back and get you a more prominent time frame of when I started tracking numbers. I started tracking and charting on my own before I started using everybody else. I kept track of numbers, and I did a lot of screenshots and the numbers of this and that, and put them up, and let's see, where am I at here? I'm still scrolling.
Were you in the business of microbes when Fukushima happened?
I've been in the microbes 15 to 18 years already.
Oh, wow. So you knew when Fukushima happened that microbes would probably be a really good solution.
Well, see,
Wow.
One of the key things that everybody needs to understand, there's a documentary out on Chernobyl. And with Chernobyl's incident, even though they've got the concrete base and they've been working on Chernobyl all these years, they've been circulating and pumping live microbes down into the soil around Chernobyl. But keep in mind, that's also ground zero. And they made a difference at ground zero. We are not ground zero, folks. We can definitely turn this around because we are not ground zero.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can make a difference at ground zero, think what we could be doing here.
Mm-hmm.
So,
What would that entail? I mean, do we need to get the government to support microbe funding for microbes to remediate the soil? I mean, what is the necessary steps to, I mean, that seems like, I was thinking about this before, Chuck, like I mean, we can all buy the product ourselves, but to really create the wave, I mean, think of all the government subsidies and fundings for farmers. I wonder if, could you get the government to create like I don't know, some type of an entity where they just go out and put microbes? Because I remember you said it's very important for you to handle the microbes correctly. So you don't want to just hand them out to a bunch of people that don't know what they're doing, because then it won't work. But what about this idea of setting up like an organization that just goes around, either government funded or private sponsored, where the government helps people pay for it because it's expensive? I mean, what if we did like that, where we create an agency or create an entity that goes around to farmers, and that's their business. They just go around, make sure they spread the microbes correctly on all these massive fields, because we have these you live there, you're in Kansas, you know what that looks like. I've seen pictures, but you live that, right?
I live it and I breathe it.
So don't you think that that's a good solution to like create some agencies or some corporations that that's their job, that they just go out and travel around and put microbes on farms?
That would be all right with me, but not only do we have to worry about the farms, but, you know, look at Lake Erie. Look how green Lake Erie's turned. Look at all of our lakes and ponds across the country that's turning. There's a lot of play to turn water green and have all that green algae. But nevertheless, that green algae can be dissolved. It can be ate. It can be cleaned up, and we can turn all of our watersheds around.
So you pour the microbes in the watershed into the water?
Mm-hmm.
Just dump big buckets and barrels of it into it?
300-gallon totes and them green ponds and them green algae, and let it go to work. That's all there is to it.
Wow. Wow. You
Either
know
that,
what?
get some flames and start spraying the lakes and the ponds. It is so simple to work with the microbes once you've got a grasp on it. It is so simple, and it's almost idiot-proof.
Yeah, but if you mishandle microbes, you kill them all. That's the thing. You have to understand. It's not really idiot-proof. It does require someone to comprehend how microbes actually work so that they don't contaminate it. Because once you contaminate it, you wreck the whole pot of microbes.
And if you're talking on a 300-gallon tote, you just threw away $20,000.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That's what I think. That's why I like check this conversation about how big the magnitude is. Like if we really think of, Charlotte and I were talking about this. My friend who's a permaculturist, she's doing a farm in Eastern Oregon where they're not going to water at all, but all they're doing is pouring microbes on the roots of the trees. And those roots of the trees, it'll make the roots grow down to the water table so it doesn't need. This is how they do it in India. They pour microbes on the plants so that it grows down, and then you don't have to water because they live in drought conditions. And she was saying if you can pour enough microbes on the entire earth, and actually after a while, once you do it, it starts to regenerate itself. Like while it's absorbing the contaminants and the chemicals and the radioactivity, we need to keep supplying it. But once it gets healthier, it doesn't even have to take away all of the contaminants. It begins to regenerate itself. It's a really awesome concept. I mean, the EPA knows about this, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so why do they say they can't do it?
Oh, follow the money. That's the biggest thing. Follow the money. Nature's not on the market exchange.
Wow.
However, now if you go and Google this while we're talking about it, a couple of years ago, Kansas City Star, newspaper out of Kansas City Star, did an article, and it's fungus in our agriculture. And when you open that up and start reading it, it's actually Monsanto playing with microbes that they produce. Well, that's GMO microbes because you cannot patent nature. So in order to make money off of it, it has to have a patent. So Monsanto is working on putting together a line of microbes that are genetically modified so they can make money.
Wow.
Because microbes, you have to have a patent. You cannot have nature on the market exchange, and that is where this, I believe, is going.
Yeah, but how can they patent nature? A microbe will regenerate itself. How could they have a patent on a microbe if it regenerates itself? How can that be a patent?
Genetically modified. It's going to be altered.
So that it can't reproduce. But that's the insane part about Monsanto. They genetically modify it so it cannot reproduce.
Not only that, but if you step back before Fukushima and look at the BP oil mess we had in the Gulf Coast, that deal there, yeah, there was some microbes put down, genetically altered, genetically specific made microbes. Now, if you go back and look at this,
Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Are you talking about the Corexic? Is that the genetically modified microbes?
No. There was microbes put down. Cortex is not a microbe. That is a chemical. But
Okay.
there was now some microbes sprayed along the beaches and in the water to help try and mitigate. Problem is, like I said, these were specific microbes. Now look at all of the flesh-eating bacteria and problems they've got along the Gulf Coast, because they took and played with the genetics of a microbe, and now they're finding the ill effects of what they played with. That's
Well,
why
how did they modify them? Why didn't they just spray regular microbes? Why did they modify them? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
follow the money.
Okay, what does that
You
mean?
cannot be on the market exchange. You cannot be a part of the big money exchange stock markets unless you've got patents. And that's where your money's at. If you go out here and buy your GM or your Dodge or whatever vehicle, you pay money for. Stock market follows the market. Same way with the microbes. When you have natural product, it's not on any stock market. It's not on any market exchange. So in other words, they have no way of making money off of selling microbes. Now, with the specific and the lab and the genetics and all of this, that's done through market exchange. So people have stock on it. They make money on it.
Yeah, but what was modified in their microbes that, like, did it prevent it from reproducing? Is that what their microbes did?
Do not know how the genetics were. All I'm saying is that when you start playing with genetics and start playing,
So what are the consequences now? So you're saying they're
Right.
finding, what are those consequences now from those microbes?
I'm going to bet that that's where you're playing genetics, playing with those microbes. Now we have, for unknown reasons, we have flesh-eating bacteria that's eating people's flesh and causing a lot of health issues by eating eating your flesh.
Oh, my God. Down in
In
Louisiana. You know what? I'll tell you what, my friend Mary lives down there, and she's got some weird illness. Like since that BP spill, she lives in Homa. She's got some weird thing that makes her like dizzy and her heart palpitates. Like she just can't. Uh, so it has caused something, and the doctors do not know what it is. They haven't identified it. It's a mystery. Same thing.
Same, just like Fukushima's a mystery.
Yeah.
People need to understand, when you start playing with genetics and trying to outdo our creator, you're going to have backlash.
Yeah. That's actually true, man. That's not only backlash, like something you don't even know what you've done. I mean, this whole thing of cloning and AI and all that stuff. I mean, you listen to Jules's show. She reads these reports. I mean, oh my God, sometimes I'll be working and listening to her show, and I'm like, it sounds like a science fiction story. Like this can't be real, but it is real. It's like more real than anything you can imagine. It's outrageous. It's not just what they're planning on doing, it's what they are doing to us. So with the radioactive rates out there in any of these cities that are out there, what's the highest city that you've found in the last week? Where's the sector of it that's, because usually you can find little zones.
The biggest criteria with Bob Nichols' reports, Raleigh, North Carolina was 1963.
Why?
Then we jump back to Denver, Colorado, 1911. Perry, South Dakota, 1845. And then Minnesota, 1811. Grand Junction, Colorado, back over there, 1725. And then we jump to Bakersfield, California, 1706. Back into Colorado Springs at 1638. And then we go Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Louisville, Kentucky, Mason City, then back to Little Rock, Arkansas, Lincoln, Nebraska, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Well, people need to understand, now that I'm saying Tulsa and then here, we've got Perry, South Dakota, Duluth, Minnesota, Grand Junction, Colorado, Colorado Springs, and then Little Rock, Arkansas, Lincoln, Nebraska, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Kearney, Nebraska, Billings, Montana, Dodge City, Kansas. Then we jump back and forth, and then we go back down into Texas, Amarillo.
Is this all today? I went to that page. So this is the last week. This is what it's been for the last week. 1,300, 1,900. Oh, my gosh. Has it gone over 2,000 ever? Have you ever seen it go over 2,000?
I've seen reports. We did here. We crested it here a year ago.
Really?
At Bismarck, North Dakota, Rapid City, South Dakota. These are all cities and locations. El Paso, Texas, Dallas, Texas. All of these are in Kansas City, Omaha, Nebraska. These are all our breadbasket. This is up and down the plains where most of this country gets their food from. Most of us are above 1,000 counts per minute.
That's true. I mean, there's nothing we're going to do about it. The issue is how do we protect ourselves? I mean,
So,
really.
That's one of the things that...
It's kind of like, do you know much about the Wigner effect, Chuck? Do you know much about the Wigner effect? It's about how it's how the radiation affects electronics and metals and all this other stuff. It actually wears it down. That's why we see a whole lot of airplane accidents and things like that. Think about what it's doing to all these nuclear power plants. Oops. You know what I mean? Like this stuff is like we're beginning to see the badness, but we haven't even seen the worst of it. We're just beginning to realize it. Like they think this is what I mean when I say they can tell us whatever they want. You can't hide death. We can't hide what is going on. Like even this story that's on your Facebook page, Chernobyl exclusion zone, radioactive longer than expected. That's actually not true. Real scientists expect it to go on for a super long time. The liars at the IAEA don't. You know what I mean? But whatever. I mean, it's outrageous. So
now, while we've been here sitting here visiting this last few rounds here, I went back in through some of the archives on the page. I reposted 2 articles to the Mid-America page. The one is if you open up the photos, you've got to remember, every one of these photos has an article tied to them. Open up the photos, read them, go through the links. You should be able to come up with enough information to get your list of symptoms.
Oh, this one that has the photos on it that says thanks today, tomorrow, and always, like click on these photos with a picture, like the one with the tanks on it that has a story link to it?
My articles for Mid-American Land Restoration.
Okay.
Just like the one I posted just a few minutes ago.
From January 10th, 2014. I see the date, yeah.
The flashbacks. And the bald eagles. That's the list of the American bald eagles that fell dead out of the sky. And when I did that article, that's December, folks. And in December 2013, when these birds started falling out of the sky, we were led to believe that these birds were falling out of the sky to West Nile.
Right.
Well, guess what? those of us here in rural America that deal in livestock and life in December, January, there are no mosquitoes in the dead of winter because it's freezing out. There was no West Nile. That's what they tried to claim it as.
Right. Well, everything is now the avian flu. I'm taking a list. I should be done shortly of all these mass animal deaths that I often talk about. I go to that page, the mass animal deaths, and I decided I'm going to list all the fish. I'm making an Excel spreadsheet that's going to count, and I got through January. January of 2016, 3 million birds died. Over 3 million birds plus. And then they measure fish in tons, and then they also measure fish in thousands. So the way they mix up the numbers, and then they just think mass deaths, they don't tell you. I mean, it's very interesting how the numbers aren't, there's no accuracy in reporting at all on these mass animal deaths. They're just summations, you know. This is shocking, actually, looking at these things. And this is from 2014, or 13, actually. December 31st, 2013. Well, this is the thing. This is what they count on, is for people to just not look anymore, not see it, not remember it.
And see, I didn't take the time to open them links to see if they were still active. So I know for a fact during this time frame when I did that article, I could make a link go active, and the next day it was gone.
Wow.
I fought that for the first 2.5 years of this fight. We posted them. We found the PDF files, you know, when I discussed the PDF files on them changing our safety limits.
December 7th, thousands of snow geese die after landing on toxic waters in Montana. Wonder what that means. What toxic water? Wow, in Montana.
So,
wow.
Like I said, there's a lot of information, you know, scattered through my page, especially in the photo section. So.
Okay, so that's a good place to go on your page on Facebook. Look in the photo section to find old links and a lot of information. That may or may not be active, but a lot of them are active. I mean, I find when I go up and look, also you can go to like newspapers.com and look there for our old articles. I mean, we do have to get clever on finding information. It's archived, but we just have to be clever on how to find it, because the media literally is controlled. And so no point in just pissing and moaning about it. We just have to figure out how to get around them, because they don't want to accept it.
That's where I tried to save all of this in my computer, but then I loaded my computer down so doggone bad that I couldn't do anything. So I started doing these photo articles and putting all the links and tying them to these photos, so I could always come back through this photo section and pull them back up. So I didn't have to save them on the computer. They were saved right here within these photos.
Well, that's a good idea, but you could put them also on an external hard drive.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people that like the cloud. I don't know how you feel, but I don't like the cloud. I think if you put anything on the cloud, you might as well kiss it goodbye.
Yeah, because I don't trust any of them.
Me either.
But
That's a weird thing, isn't it, Chuck? That we're now, I don't know about you, but my distrust of all of this, I actually was completely unaware until 2000, when it was so obvious what was going on, when they rolled us into the Iraq War, like 9/11, the whole thing, stealing the election, 9/11, and then the Iraq War. The 2 pages after 9/11, a 1,500-page document that our Congress admitted not reading and passing that took away our rights. I was like, say what? That's when I woke up. That's like when I started you know. And honestly, when Fukushima happened, I don't know why, but I really did believe what I was being told. I believed that it would be, I could not have imagined, Chuck, that something so grave, so detrimental to the planet would be ignored like that. I think that's been my biggest shock in doing this for the last 3 years, is that this is a grave thing that they can't okay, they can't fix it, but they need to at least tell people it's very serious and we need to take it very seriously. Not, oh, it's yesterday's news and anybody who talks about it is a conspiracy theorist.
And see, one of the other things that I did, I tried to get everybody aware of the weather with these numbers.
Yes.
And see, if you go back on the timeline in the photos far enough back, you will see where I took the rad maps with all of the warnings and set them side by side or over top of that very moment's radar. And you could see the snowstorms. You could see all of the storms following the rad numbers without a doubt.
So let's see the photos. Which one should we go to? Rad readings for 12/9/2013.
Let me see if I can find.
There's timeline photos 741 on your page. Maybe that's the one that you're talking about, Chuck.
December 21st, 2013.
Okay. Oh, let me see all. Okay.
It lays out completely there.
What does it say? I can't find it.
Now, open up your chat. Are you?
I'm on your page. Yeah.
There you are.
I see rad readings for 12/9/2013. That's not the one that you want, then, right?
Open up your chat. I just sent it to you.
Okay. Thanks. There you go. Okay.
Now, is that obvious or what?
Yeah. Yeah. The difference between the before and after, you mean?
No. See, up there in the top picture, that's Nuclear Emergency Tracking Center. The colors represent the different levels of radiation.
Wow.
Now,
and what's on the bottom picture? We're looking at a picture of the Northwest. This is, I mean, we are on the radio, Chuck, so I'm going to tell people about what we're looking at. We're looking at a map of the Northeast, and there's all these like little, you've seen them, radiation warnings that basically line the coast, and all along the Great Lakes, there's like bright ones and then even a red one, meaning like emergency. It's radcon. I mean, it's huge, the difference. And then there's a second picture of the Northwest without the warnings on the radiation that has like green on it. I mean,
weather map. That was December. That's the snowstorm that was coming across the plains in the Great Lakes area. And the snow was holding the radiation.
Yeah, well, that's a big issue, too. People need to understand that you can't just let your kids eat snow. My daughter had a heart attack when I told my grandson not to eat snow and not to put his face into the rain. And I'm like, you know what? I won't talk about it, but I'm not going to let him just do that. You can't let your children eat. I mean, the world is different. This whole idea about, oh, we can just enjoy the simple pleasures. We can still enjoy the simple pleasures of life, of like walking out in the snow and playing in the snow and being out there. But you can't eat it anymore. You can't ingest it. You got to make sure it stays out of your eyes and your ears. It doesn't mean we got to like curl up and die and we can't go enjoy ourselves, because we still have to live on the planet. It's not going to kill us right away, but we have to have some common sense.
All right. My first tracking of the issues started with the burning of the leaves on the young trees that I just planted and had going. Then my first tracking of radiation numbers was August 11th of 2013 is when I first started posting the first screenshots of the rad numbers.
And what was it then?
Let's see. This was Billings, Montana. It's 697 counts.
And now we're at over 1,000, 1,300, 1,900. Lord. So it's only exponentially increasing. That's all there is to it. So, that's really the issue. It's just really, I mean, it's cumulative too. This is the thing. It is cumulative. So It's kind of like we really
Right
are
now,
literally frogs in a pot of boiling water.
what people need to understand, Billings, Montana, Colorado Springs, Denver, they're in the Rockies. The altitude's getting them. That's where their numbers come a little higher all the time. Now, on August 11th of 2013, the rad numbers of Kansas City. Now, keep in mind, for quite some time, Kansas City's been on that list of above 1,000 counts per minute. On August 11th, 2013, Kansas City was 240 counts per minute. So, yeah, we've gone up quite a little bit here in the plains. So, like I said, there's a lot of archived info hidden in them photos on the Mid-American Land Restoration page, as you saw with those articles with the eagles. There's a lot hidden in there. All you have to do is go looking for it.
Well, therein lies the issue, isn't it, Chuck? Is people have to go looking for it. I mean, we're here. I mean, I wonder how many of even our listeners that listen to this is, they're willing to go back and dig for it, because it does take some time to have to look for it and to put it together. I mean, that's the issue. I mean, that's why I think your page is great, because people can play around with it. Like, they don't have to, there's places that they can do. They can go to your page and just sort of Google a name and find something, because you've been posting for a long time. Like this one, I love this one. December 12, 2016, Fukushima faces wall to hosting Olympic baseball. Thank goodness for that. Someone's actually come up with some opposition to that. It's ridiculous.
Now that we've been on the air 55 minutes or so, 50 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
One of the topics we haven't discussed today was the earthquakes. Since we've been on air, 30 minutes ago, Indonesia, a 4.8.
Wow.
Ecuador, 5.0. That one was 60 minutes ago. So, yeah, we've got some shaking and moving still going on here every day.
Well, you know what? I live on the West Coast, and to be honest, I think I'm going to do that again. Please do call Elliot Mainzer's number at 800-282-3713. He works for the Bonneville Power Administration. He has the power to close the Columbia Generating Station, only 15 miles from Hanford. With all this earthquake activity on the West Coast, he is the responsible party who can close down Columbia Generating Station and prevent a catastrophic event right here. When you said we're not ground zero, if Hanford goes off, we will be ground zero. We will be ground zero, Chuck. So I think it's important for people to call. Call Elliot Mainzer at 800-282-3713. So how's that for a plug? Got me going on that one. Thank you, Chuck. We only do have a minute left, but thanks, because really that is a serious issue. If something happens, we're super screwed. I mean, that will make us ground zero. So listen, it's 8:58 and 22 seconds. We have 30 seconds left. Thank you, Chuck Hindman from Mid-America Land Restoration. Please follow his Facebook page, because it has a lot of awesome information. Thank you for joining us, Chuck.
You have a good week, Lonnie.
You too. And everybody, put your courage feet on. Your voice matters. Your action matters. Walk in love. Love is greater than fear. Happiness is resistance. And, it does matter what we do. So put your courage feet on and take some action. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Actually, we're going to have a pre-recorded interview from Carl Grossman. Talk to you later.